Hello everyone, my name is Irmat Musawani and I would like to explain about the article Multiple Personalities, Childhood, Unresolved Conflicts and Trauma in Clarks All Around the Town by our lecturer, Ma'am Fatma Hetami. Here's the main topic that we would discuss today. First, introduction, and we would go to the theory, method, discussion about general picture of Laurie Canyon and the development of Laurie's personality, and last, Laurie's multiple personalities as the result of the childhood unresolved conflict and trauma. The aim of the article is to describe how multiple personalities as the unresolved childhood conflict and trauma are rebuilt in Clark's all around the town. The novel is analyzed by using psychological approach. The object of the article is one of the characters in this book, Laurie Canyon. God creates human beings with their complexity and uniqueness. They live in various societies, which then make them grow up as people with various personalities. In works of literature, such as novel, drama, or short story, characters are described as if they are alive. Instead of only reading the text, the readers are indirectly asked to interpret the performed characters as individuals, such as how they behave, why they behave as they do, how they think, and they are like together. In Clark's All Around the Town, for example, the main character, Laurie Canyon, is very interesting to discuss. She doesn't only give us a surprising plot, but also a complex personality, which then develops into multiple ones. In line with this paper is aimed at finding out how the multiple personality as the unresolved childhood conflicts and trauma is revealed in Clark's All Around the Town. In revealing the multiple personalities of the main character, analysis of the personality development of the character and her psychological condition is needed. In line with this, psychology of literature is the best approach. It is an approach of literature which is based on the assumption that literary works are always discuss the life of human beings and their behaviors. By using the approach, characters' behaviors in literary works can be observed and interpreted in depth. Psychoanalysis is a part of study area of psychological literature as stated by Wright. There are three main concepts of psychoanalytic theory. First, the model of psyche. According to Freud in Wardoyo, there are three distinct agencies of human's mind: ID, ego, and superego. The first is the instinctual unconscious, where pleasure principle exists. It is the source of all instinctual energies, while the second is the conscious portion of human psychology and generally identified as the personality. The ego, which is also known as reality principle, develops out of the ID. Its function is to mediate between the instinctual demand of the ID and the requirement of the external world. The superego represents the survival of parental attitudes in the psyche. There are moral sensors in it. It is the search of plot by the ego for unconsciousness instinctual wishes. Second, the concept of repression. With the appearance of those three agencies, the picture of conflict becomes clear. The ID wants its pleasure fulfilled whether or not they are compatible with external demand. The ego finds itself threatened by the pressure of the unacceptable wishes. Memories of these bitter experiences are stored in mind and they become unconscious. This is the operation known as repression. The repression, which is not released, then becomes a dream. Last, the role of sexual instinct. Repressions or forces find representation in mind. The instincts, either sexual or self-preservation, have bound to thoughts and images in the course of early experience. However, the sexual instinct plays a major role in physical conflict precisely because it is always opposed by another instinct. Freud conceptualized the mind or the psyche as consisting of three levels of unconsciousness: the conscious, the preconscious, the pre-conscious, and the unconscious. Referring to this, there are three psychological symptoms indicating the existence of unconscious mind. There are misbehavior symptoms such as misreading and mishearing, dream symptoms, and neurotic symptoms, which the last one is caused by the collision of unconscious motivation and the conscious mind. For the discussion, library research was used. According to Semi, it is a research which takes place in a researcher's working room or library, where he gets data and information for his research thought through books or other audiovisual instruments. By using this method, the main data clerks all around the town was analyzed. Besides, some other supporting books and references relating with the topic discussed were also used. Meanwhile, psychological approach will certainly make the discussion clearer. It is due to the assumption that literary works has a strong relationship with human life. By using such approach, multiple personality as the unresolved childhood conflict and trauma experienced by Larry Kenyon can be revealed. We go to discussion. First, general picture of Larry Kenyon. As the main character on the discussed novel, Larry Kenyon is presented dynamically by the character. From the attitude she performs, it can be considered that her character is round and developing at the same time. Her various traits, which easily change at any time along with the development of the story, indicates that her round and developing characters truly exist. Her multiple personality also supports the existence of her round and developing characters. Laurie Kenyon is a 21-year-old woman who suffers from multiple personalities as the effect of her unresolved childhood conflict and trauma. Laura is a cheerful kid at first, but after kidnapping, everything changes. She seems to have a pressure caused by childlike anxiety. Besides, she tends to avoid relationship, even conversation with her peers. She likes to be alone. We can conclude that Laura is having a trauma because in her childhood, there are many incidents that make her life a mess and unorganized. Conflicts arise there. Her multiple personalities that actually has been successfully pressured and controlled before her parents' death now emerge up. And it makes her altered characters complicatedly develops more than before. Multiple personalities created by Laurie are the way she expresses the anxiety, fear, pressure, and guilty feelings as the effect of her childhood trauma. She does not realize that the existence of her multiple personalities, but eagerly wants to erase her anxiety and cope with her traumatic experience. The development of Laurie's personality. The first stage is Laurie's childhood, Laurie's conflict with Pick and Opal. Along the kidnapping, the abductors Pick and Opal treat Laurie harshly. Laurie feels that the way both the abductors treat her is completely different from what she got at home. Besides, the abductors also doing sexual harassment to Laurie, and another cause of her trauma is they unconsciously create a fear by locking Laurie in a dark room. It is terrible for Laurie since she suffers from phobia of the darkness. Second, Laurie's association with other people or things around her. This discussion covers Laurie's conflict with her parents, Greg Pennant, and things such as songs, hairy arms, chicken, as well as knife. Basically, Laurie's relationship with her parents is compiled with love and understanding. That is why they have never had a serious quarreling when they have a different point of view in coping with a certain problem. However, guilty conscience that Laurie possesses because of being kidnapped, abused, and incarcerated when she was a child caused a conflict between Laurie and her parents. Laurie always blaming herself and thought that she was the cause of her parents' death. Laurie's past traumatic experience in which she treated harshly and improperly by the abductors, especially Pig, always haunts her. Being slapped, hit, incarcerated, and abused as well as raped by pigmates, Laurie eventually becomes antipathetic of men. From this analysis above, it is plain to see that the violation which was performed by Pig when Laurie was a child has made her grow as a woman who is afraid and anxious of men. In one hand, she needs to be able to adjust herself with men, but on the other hand, she scares if her past traumatic experience will appear twice. Being kidnapped apparently creates many traumatic for Larry. Like she's afraid of chicken because she will remember this chicken that Pig gave to her was being killed, and instead of that pure chicken is scary. Furthermore, she also afraid of the hairy arms. It also reminds her about Pig's hands who always wraps her. Knives are Laurie another was scanner of life. She keeps remembering how the abductor Pig takes the butcher knife from the kitchen drawer, winks at his wife, and kills the chicken without any compassion on it. She cannot forget how she tries hard to save the chicken from Pig's anger. Laurie also has to sing because every time they have just finished singing, her face is contorted in fear. Her breathing becomes quick, painful gasps, and Pig always then brings Larry upstairs to satisfy his lust. Laurie's inordinate fear of songs, hairy arms, chickens, and knives is caused by her childhood traumatic experience with the abductors, especially Pig. She finds it quite difficult in adapting herself with those things even in normal conditions. Laurie, who at first is calm and controlled, can suddenly become sad, frightened, and panics as well if she meets those traumatic things. Her fear of songs, hairy arms, chickens, and knives is actually not a big deal if she is conscious about herself. The fear makes her live her life in anxious condition, which of course bad for her psychological development. Laura's adulthood, Laura's conflict with her altered personalities. Laura's disability in dealing with her anxiety and guilty conscience makes her suffer from personality disorder and neurotic symptoms, which are not in accordance with her personality structure. She has developed multiple personality existing under her unconscious mind. Psychologically, Laurie withdraws from the pain and fear, and the altered personalities come to help her. The memory of those years is locked away in them. It would seem that the other personality has not been apparent until now. Referring to the multiple personalities she has, there are some conflict arising between Laurie herself and the alternate Kate, Debbie, Leona, and Lee. Her being unaware of the altered personality makes Laurie tired all the time. She's always exhausted, although she stays in her room and studies almost every night. We go to discuss about the altered personalities from Laurie. Laura's kidnapping started when she was 4 years old, and a feeling of fear, anxious, and guilty conscience oppresses her as well. That is why the personality of Tabby, a 4-year-old in a 4-year-old desperate surprises and bewildered little girl who is abused and incarcerated and then is stored in Laura's altered personality. Laurie thinks that by creating Debbie, she can reborn her childhood, which is full of terrible traumatic experience that she wants to forget for the rest of her life. Another Laurie's alter personality is Kate. She's kind of protector and almost life cross name. She's 33, which makes her fairly close to the only Laurie's sister, Sarah. This alter personality usually comes out with arrogance and bullying attitude and dwells inside Laurie. Directs or tries to direct Laurie's action. She is created by Laurie to be a protector and a guardian angel, which is how Laurie sees Sarah. Different from Kate, Leona is Laurie's alter personality who is pretty sexy. She usually smokes every time she shows up to take a part in Dr. Justin Connolly and Laurie's conversation. The personality of wild, passionate, sexy, and irresistible woman appears as the effect of Laurie's disability in adjusting herself to the opposite sex, especially her boyfriend, Craig Bennett. In one hand, Laurie wants either to love or to be loved by a man she is interested in, but on the other hand, she is afraid of what's going to happen with her. If she makes a relationship with a man, she has to be ready to have its consequence, including his lust. The last Laurie's author is a 9 or 10-year-old boy named Lee. He is created to protect and remind Laurie that it is absolutely forbidden for her to reveal her past experience, as the abductor once warned her not to mention the words pig and apple in front of the people. He is a reflection of Laurie's imaginary friend when she was being kidnapped and abused. It is clear to see that those four altered personalities actually appear under Laurie's unconsciousness. Laurie is unaware of the existence of the alter Kate, Debbie, Leona, and Lee. They appear every time she has to deal with her traumatic experience that cause her emotion pent up. Those altered personalities seem, in some ways, are often trying to help Laurie rather than hurt her. But in other ways, they can bring misfortune to Laurie, considering that their existence are out of Laurie's consciousness. Laurie's multiple personalities as the result of the childhood unresolved conflict and trauma. Laurie's model of psyche. The general picture of Laurie Canyon shows that her ID is so weak. Her ID is actually full of reality principles. She needs to love and to be loved. It seems that her difficulty in dealing with her traumatic experience makes her desperate. That is why then she creates the multiple personalities as the reality principle. Laurie's repression. From the appearance of the three agencies of ID, ego, and superego, it seems that Laurie is not successfully able to deal with people and things at her circumstances. She shows her immature personality by performing different and unpredictable behavior at the same time. She is actually depressed and frustrated. Her ego keeps finding itself, although threatened by the pressure of unfulfilled wishes. Indeed, this condition is painful for her, although speeder memories are stored in mind and become unconscious. The unrealized repression possessed by Laurie is transformed into a dream. In this case, the dream is in the form of her altered personalities in which their existence are beyond Laurie's consciousness. Laurie's symbolic mother and father figures. Laurie loves her father and mother very much. The car accident that causes the death of her parents really makes her down. She has lost the symbol of parents when she was incarcerated. In terms of symbolic mother figure, she chooses Sarah. Her mother used to care about her so much. That is why, after her mother's death, she tries to find affection from Sarah, her only sister. Laura is really dependent on Sarah. It can be seen clearly from the way she asks Sarah's help for a protection. Meanwhile, Laurie is also hunger for a father symbolic figure. When she met her professor, Alan Grant, she finds a figure of father in him. She feels comfortable and the professor's attention always goes to her. In the process of her personality development, she then makes some efforts to reach her wish. She writes letters secretly and finally kills Ellen. Rejection from Ellen cannot be accepted by Laurie. She feels hurt so that she can't control her emotion anymore. Conclusion and suggestion. Mary Higgins Clark's All Around the Town is a portrait of personal conflict experienced by the main character, Laurie Kenyon. Throughout the story, Laurie is taken into a certain direction that forces her to face a lot of conflicts, such as conflicts with her childhood, conflict with other people or things around her, and conflict in Laura's inner self with her alter personalities as well. The discussion of psychological review of Laurie Canyon as the main character indicates that her childhood unresolved conflicts, especially with girls with traumatic experiences such as being kidnapped, abused, incarcerated, and raped at the age of 4, has made her grow up as a woman who is always obsessed by guilty conscience and anxiety. The burden that Laurie has to lift is too heavy. That is why then she creates some other personalities who are ready to help her at any time she needs. Her multiple personalities appear because of her disability in coping with the recurring anxiety and guilty conscience as the effect of her childhood unresolved conflict. It then becomes trauma and kept under Laurie's unconsciousness. That's all from my presentation about the multiple personalities in the Clarks all around the town. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.